Hello, beautiful community. Welcome back to another and special episode of Overcoming Overwhelm, a nervous system approach to wellness, health, and success. And I'm so excited to be with our guest for today. I was just sharing with her before we hit record what a big fan I've been for forever, at least a decade. And just appreciating who she is in the world. And we have important things to cover today. So let me tell you a little bit about this incredible woman, Kristen Kancler. She's an embodiment mentor for visionary women. She supports high-achieving female entrepreneurs and change makers to connect to the wisdom and guidance of their bodies so they live their most beautiful life from the inside out. By accessing the creative power of their nervous system, Kristen's clients live deeply nourished in their body and soul, create lifestyles that feel effortless and true to who they are. Yes, amen to that. And show up powerfully in their business for the extraordinary impact they're here to have. Through her revolutionary method, the Effortless Embodiment Method, Kristen guides women to rewire their nervous systems so they live in total alignment with their desires. Oh, so gorgeous. And, everything, it's just such a gift to be with somebody who really understands that everything is going to stem from this embodiment, from a healthy nervous system that is well regulated and just feeling that sense of safety. And so, I've asked a lot of guests and I've loved all of the answers, but, you've been in this coaching world for a long time. And I wonder how you can kind of share with us, how did you find out, when did you find out that the nervous system is such a foundational piece that you had to address in order for people to really get their most out of working with you?
Oh my, that is the best question. So yes, I have been in the industry for, 14 years or so. And when I started out, I was really focused on working with women around emotional eating and body hate and all of these things that were like a huge part of what I had been through. And I had like a bunch of wonderful coaching and, ways that I was really supporting women. And so I was doing this for a few years, building my practice, building, how I really work with people. And of course, I am on my own journey and always doing, personal development, my own coaching, like leadership trainings, like all sorts of things. I'm like, this is just my world inside and out.
Yeah.
And I was working with my own coach, and I was, so this is probably about 9 years ago. So I, been building my practice for a while. And I was doing this 5-day challenge that I was going to put out to the world. And I was like slowly driving myself mad. I was like obsessive about things. I was doing this Facebook ad, and I remember one night I was looking for the picture to put with the ad. Kind of seems like an easy enough thing, but I was up just looking after like image after image after image. And also at this time I would work like into the wee hours of the night, like in bed, like on my laptop. And at one point I looked over at the clock and it was like 4 a.m. and I was like, something's not okay here. Like I was so obsessed with finding the perfect image because like everything had to be perfect. I was so like,
we're safe, right? In the
perfection.
Yeah.
I was so like tightly wound that I was like needing things to go a certain way so I could get, X amount of clients and, X amount of people in the challenge and all of these things. And recognizing that being up until 4 a.m, like obsessively, like trying to just pick an image, I knew there was something deeper.
Yeah.
So I went to my coach, I told her about it, and luckily she very intuitively sensed that this went back to, I have a history of sexual abuse when I was young. And she knew that there was a conversation that I needed to have,
Mhm.
and a way that my system needed to let go and relax into safety, because
Yeah.
for all of those years it was like not safe, not safe, like turn to food, turn to business, turn to partying, like all of
Yes.
those
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
things. Yeah. And so I ended up having this completely life-changing conversation. And I mean, it was so deep, it was so emotional, it was so like at the root. Um, and I had a release like I've never had in my life. It was
Mhm.
like I was like bawling and shaking, and it was like this huge thing. It was the most cathartic experience of my life. It was like all the things that from, when I was 12 years old that I had been holding on to, finally I got to let that go.
Yeah.
And uh, like I've done a lot of personal development work up until then, but this was overnight. I like let go of that control freak, like from my body. And I was like, what is this? Because this is the
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
that needs to be in the world.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. How incredible. And you brought up so many, this experience brought up so many things. It's the importance for us to kind of understand where we are avoiding, right? This
Yep.
experience, this underlying sense of dis-ease, this lack of wellness because of, the events that happen. And it can be an event, right? Like a big trauma that happens to somebody, like sexual abuse, like physical abuse, like living through a natural disaster. But it can also be the accumulation of many, many, many things over time. It can be, just the lack of attunement from our caregivers. And so, wanting, that's not a safe place when we have those accumulated experiences. Our bodies, our internal world becomes unsafe. We learn to shut it down. But in order to do that, we have to find something to help us avoid it. Like you said, food, work, partying, shopping, gambling, drinking, whatever,
Yep.
right?
You
Scrolling,
name it.
scrolling. And it can be all these things. And what a powerful moment you had to say, this is me doing that.
Yeah.
Right? And to take your power back and say, I'm going to let this in so that I don't have to avoid it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like do or die. Like when she was
Yeah.
like, this is the conversation you need to have. It was, of course, the most terrifying
Of
conversation I
course.
could think to have on an emotional level. But I was
Mhm.
like, there's no way I'm not
Yeah.
doing this, like,
Yeah.
because I knew it was the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like when I tell people, it's like a scary movie when you've seen it, like you can't not have seen that, right? You
Right.
see it and that's it, right? It's with you forever. Now you can't ignore it anymore. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, because all of us and when we hear this story, sometimes I have a lot of people who tell me like, oh, I didn't have that great big breakthrough. I didn't fall on the floor. I didn't sob. I didn't shake. I didn't have all these things. And it can happen in so many different ways. Yes, your
Yeah.
experience was that way, but it doesn't have to be this big breakthrough moment. It can be more like, you pick the lid up a little bit and it
Yeah.
slowly over time, just like a little bit seeps out every day. And that's a beautiful experience as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a great point, because actually, and so this is, work that I do for myself
Yeah.
as well. I do the methodology with my clients and I do it with myself as well. Most of the time, it's not so overwhelmingly huge.
Right.
Sometimes clients will, have some tears come up and,
Mhm.
some shaking or moving. but usually it's just like, it's so internal. And, the way that I had my breakthrough, was in having a conversation.
Yeah.
That became like what I did was I found out like what moved inside. And so when I work with clients, there's no conversations needed. It's all within. And it's
Body.
such
Yeah.
a safe space that it's like we're just getting in the body and, having the emotion and conversation to move things. And so sometimes it can just be this like huge relief, but there's no wild, and I've rarely had that. That was like my initiation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they've all been much softer since then.
Yeah. Well, I think we need to have those kind of outlying experiences so that we can hold the range for people, whatever it is that's going to be
Totally.
for them,
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I'm so excited. I want to really hear about, the effortless embodiment method and what that means, because what I'm hearing is, just the importance of being with your internal environment and no longer needing to run from it. And so tell us about the method and what it leads to, what it brings as far as, changes for a person.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, I initially had like a external conversation with someone else, but when I work with clients, it's us on Zoom, and I'm having them really get into their body and, feeling like where things are. So we look at triggers, we look at patterns, we look at the beliefs that are holding them back. And it's very easy, simple to
Mhm.
like just, get into the body and to locate it. And, I've just discovered over the years, like it's so important in my methodology, at least, to get really specific with exactly where it is and how it occurs, the specific languaging that goes with it, that, we're deeply connected to. And once we connect to the body, it's like, oh, this is how it is. This is how it occurs. And then we get to the root. And, we know that's where the real transformation happens, because we can do all sorts of stuff on the surface,
Yeah.
and we can even, go into like feeling the emotion in the moment. And that definitely has its time and place, and is an important thing to do. But to actually, remove the pattern from where it's been stuck,
Yeah.
it's basically just, an overstimulation in the nervous system that didn't get processed. And so when we can be in a safe space, and really just connected, going inward into the body and finding, where do these things live,
Mhm.
and then being able to release them, and then it literally dissolves from the body. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like when you don't have the root anymore, it's like there's nothing to get triggered, because there's nothing
So
there
true.
anymore.
Yeah. And that's, I find this work to be so powerful with women who say, for example, I had these experiences when I was a kid and it made me feel like I wasn't worthwhile, or that, whatever the pattern, the limiting belief that was established.
Yeah.
But here I am, 50 years later or whatever, and I know that that's not true, but I still show up in life as if it is. And what you're saying and what I'm also experiencing with people, it's like you can't live from the new space without the pattern if it's stuck somewhere in your body.
Yes.
And so releasing it's like now you get to live, free of that, and it matches what you know to be true. But now you can actually take the different action. You can actually be the different person, because you don't have this
Exactly.
weight anymore that's holding you to this old story.
Yeah, because we can do all of the conscious work in the world, and the conscious work, again, is very important.
Yes.
Look at the new beliefs, like what are you moving into? And sometimes that's all that's needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes things are, surface enough that it's like, I just needed a reframe. I needed to see things differently.
Mhm.
But when that isn't happening, We've got to look deeper. We've got to get to the body, because we can know how freaking amazing we are.
Yeah.
And if we're
Yeah.
literally, our bodies are like holding trapped energy and patterns,
Right.
it's like, it's just going to be exhausting until you're actually able to get into the body and truly release it.
Absolutely. Yes, I love this. I love that there are, that people like you exist that understand that how important the body is. I'm curious because I know that, sometimes we can, due to, really powerful, tragic experiences, it can be really hard to tune in and feel like it's safe enough to go into the body and to, relive things. So I'm curious how you help people be in that space, find the safety that it requires to approach that, and how you work with that, because I know sometimes it's just it's so foreign, because if these things happen very early on in life, we've not been in our bodies for all this time, and so it can be hard to get back. How do you work with people to help them feel safe enough to go there?
What's been so interesting? Now I will say that if someone isn't actually ready to do the work, there's going to be crazy resistance. And I've only had that experience a couple of times. And, we just were not the right fit.
Yeah.
Everyone else, as long as you're willing to be open and
Mhm.
look, even if you don't know exactly like where,
Mhm.
usually when we go through the process, people are like, I had no idea
Yeah,
like that
yeah,
what was going on, or it came from that. Like, it's so
yeah, right.
subconscious, but it comes
Yeah.
through. But as long as someone comes in that place of like openness and willingness, and
Mhm.
they're ready to do the work, we just get into the body, and there's no even really space
Mhm.
for them to, because they get so connected so quickly,
Yeah.
because we're accessing
Mhm.
it in such
Mhm.
a way. And of course I you know do everything to be fully present,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
really hold. I've done so much of my own stuff that, like, my nervous, like you said, we get to do the really big releases
Right,
so that we
right.
can hold the range. So
Yeah.
there's never been anything that someone's come to me that has like rattled me.
Yeah.
And because
Um,
my system can hold that space,
mhm.
they sense that, we can feel
Yes.
someone's nervous system if
Yes,
they're freaking
absolutely.
out. And so, it's so much of the work that I've done. And then I've heard that my voice is really
Right,
relaxing.
right. Yeah.
There's just a lot that goes into, and I care. I care
Mhm,
so
mhm.
much. And so I come with such a like, okay, I love you. Let's do this. We're gonna get it. I
Yeah.
think people really feel that.
I
Yeah.
think so too, and I think it's a really important point that you're making, is that we are co-regulating beings by our nature, and so when we're in a space with another nervous system that is regulated and can hold it, we sense it, we pick up on it in ways that are far beyond the conversation or anything else.
Totally.
So I think it speaks a lot to just your presence, and like you said, um we have to be in a space where we can hold it and people can feel that and feel supported by it. Yeah. What a
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful testimony to the work that you've done for yourself to be able to be in that space for them.
You.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah. So
It's
I'd
good.
love.
It's good for the world. It's
Yeah.
like, yes, we do the work for ourselves first,
Yeah.
and then it's like it impacts everyone. It impacts, if we're coaches or entrepreneurs and we have clients, it impacts our family, our
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
everyone. Uh,
A
yeah,
hundred
we feel
percent.
it.
Yeah. I mean, we're
Mhm.
able to have connection with people, right, that wasn't possible. And I don't know, maybe you can speak to in your own life, the difference between the quality of your relationships now with a regulated nervous system with a sense of safety versus what it was like in your relationships before.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I have a few stories. I would keep
Yeah.
it, short and sweet to not get into all of it. But I had a really intense anxious attachment
Yeah.
for most of my life. I healed that probably like 3 years ago. And let me tell you, like, dating and like trying to find love with an anxious attachment is really difficult. I was getting triggered,
Yeah.
shutting down.
Mhm.
I've just heard from people over the years, like, it's so much easier to talk with you and be with you, and I feel like I can talk to you about anything
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm not doing the things I would do before of whatever would come up.
Mhm.
um
Mhm. Yeah, because
so
we
there's
lack
just like,
safety. When we lack safety,
yeah,
everything is a threat.
totally,
Yeah. And
totally,
so to
yeah,
now to be in relationships, and I'll say, yes, the same, just a totally different quality of relationship and enjoyment of, everything used to be literally the end of the world, right? It was,
yeah,
yeah. So,
yeah. And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, we start living a smaller life when it's like, when we're trying to
Mhm.
avoid triggers, it's like,
Yeah.
well, not that, and like, this upsets me. And we
Right.
just get smaller, and we're literally, there's all this contraction happening inside. And when we can release that, and it's like, I can be with that conversation now. I can have
Yeah.
hard conversations with people,
Yeah.
and it might still be a little bumpy or a little tricky,
Mhm.
but you know I have enough regulated nervous system, and most people in my life have
Yeah.
also, done some work, and we can go there,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's really beautiful.
And I think we make decisions and we see things from a totally different place. Like before, if our main objective was must find safety, right? We're looking for certain things. We're attuned to, certain attributes in people that may not actually be what we're looking for in a person. So we're just looking for that sense of safety. So having that sense of safety for self allows you
Mhm.
to be authentic in your relationship, looking for that true connection where you guys get to share life and share love, as opposed to, are you safe? Right? Because
Yeah.
that's a pretty limited way to evaluate whether you and I are a good match.
Right.
Yeah. 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 And so speak to us for a moment just on, so we talked about, relationship wise, what are some of the other ways that having this sense of regulation and safety translates into, people's for their business, for their other areas of life?
Yeah, well, it's so beautiful. As I mentioned, I started out working with women around, food issues and body
Yeah.
shame. And what happened is we would use that as the gateway, and
Yeah.
then we'd get to the root cause, which was like, I felt judged by my mom, or I had this trauma, or I never felt like lovable, or, I didn't, you know, feel heard or seen. I felt
Mhm. Mhm.
invisible. And so it's like, there was at some point, I was like, you know,
Yeah.
if anyone came to me with any problem,
Yeah.
this is the work that we would do, because we're just
Exactly.
going to the root. We're going to the root. And it's like, it's usually not about your relationship with food when you were a kid. It could be, but it was usually something else. And so, to work with entrepreneurs who are, putting themselves out to the world, and all of the fears that can come up around that, definitely getting into overwhelm.
Mhm.
And when
Mhm.
we've got stuff going on in our nervous system that's just not been released, it's so much easier to get into overwhelm. And another, I've had quite a few healing journeys, but a lot of what I'm bringing forward now is the ways that I over my life have been a workaholic
Yeah.
and putting so much into work and just this drive for my business,
Mhm.
at the expense of, time with my friends and like the things that I ultimately want.
Yeah.
And so what's been shifting for me in this journey is just, having a more balanced life and
Mhm.
spending more time with my friends, with my family, and having just the ease and the freedom and spaciousness. Whereas before it was always like I would feel guilty if I wasn't just working all of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's like, and it's come from the place of, inside out,
Yeah.
it
Yeah. You
wasn't
know
like,
that your worth and value has nothing to do with your production.
yes. And
Yeah.
that's a huge one.
Yeah.
That's a huge one. Our culture, our society really drives that home that it's like, okay, what are you producing and how much money are you making? And, how up all on the ladder are you? And it puts us into this state of overdrive and we forget who we are and that we're worthy just because. And there's a whole like different wiring that happens in our nervous system when we're like, go, 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 gotta produce, gotta work, to like, I actually got to have the life that I want and the ease with food, the depth in my relationships and
Yeah. Yeah.
intimacy, more ease with money. I mean, every area of
Right,
life.
right, right. And that's kind of the paradox is, I thought that by driving myself more, I was going to be more successful. And it was exactly the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. Lots of conditioning there.
exactly. Yeah. Well, this has been so beautiful. And I'm so excited just to know you're out there in the world, that you have this method that helps people, tune back into the body, which is crucial to, like we're talking about, the wealth or the wellness, the health, and the success. So I know you have an incredible free gift for this audience. And so I'd love for you to tell us what that is and how people can access it.
Yes, absolutely. So this is one of the very first things that I do with every client, no matter how long we're working
Yeah.
together, we have to start here. It's called The Awakening. It is sort of a guided meditation exercise that I lead you through. It's a short audio, and I have a PDF workbook that goes with it. And it really helps you get, first of all, super clear on, that thing that you desire. Like, what is
Mm,
that vision of the full, beautiful life, or the depth of relationship, or, the relationship with food and whatever
yeah.
it is. Get really clear on that. And then we go into the body and we find where that match to that external life we desire, where that lives in our body, and we activate that. So it's like your body becomes your North Star. It's like, oh, this is specifically how this exists, and that gets to inform your choices and how to move
Right.
forward. So it's really powerful.
Everything can then be in alignment with that. I love that. And what a beautiful introduction or gateway into the body. And as opposed to, going straight to the hurt or the
Right,
pain, the hard
right.
stuff, we're going to go in first and get some comfort around this, this thing, and really start to develop that relationship with the body through something really positive and
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all about contacting the the joy and the confidence and whatever you want to create. So, moving forward, and if anyone is feels called to do more work, we get into the deeper
Yeah.
rewiring and all of that. But this is like, taste the work,
Right.
get that
Right.
experience, like activate, feel into your body. And so
Right.
it's a really
Right.
yummy way to get started.
Oh, I love it so much. And what a great way to, explore this a little bit and get started. So I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed hanging out with you today and just
Yeah.
learning more about, this method and how powerful it is. So thank you so much for being here and sharing with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for
Yeah.
putting on this summit. It's such needed work, and I know you have such a
Yeah.
wonderful speakers here, and so thank you for bringing this to the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for being here with us and for watching. Definitely download this free gift. I know that it's going to be important and a really, really useful thing for you guys. So look forward to our next interview. And Kristen, I look forward to when our paths cross again.
Too.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. Bye.